I covered all the wedding expenses, only to get a cold message from my family. "You're not invited. Laura doesn't want you there." Hey everyone. Today I'm sharing a story that turned my life upside down. How my sister's dream wedding became my worst nightmare. I poured nearly $100,000 of my own savings into my sister Laura's wedding. I sacrificed everything, my money, my time, even my own plans, only to get a text 3 weeks before the big day saying, "You're not invited. Laura doesn't want you there." Those words cut deeper than any knife. But to understand why I ended up there, let me take you back. Growing up in Portland, money was always tight. My parents worked hard, but raising 2 girls meant we lived modestly. I was the responsible one. While my younger sister Laura got to be social, go to parties, and find herself, I was expected to ace my grades, help with chores, and basically act like a mini-adult. Whenever something needed handling, taxes, college applications, family finances, the mantra was, "Madison will figure it out." Laura. She got personalized help for everything. I didn't mind. I thrived. I graduated valedictorian, landed a full scholarship at the University of Washington, and got a job at a Seattle tech startup. When the company was acquired 3 years later, I suddenly had over $2 million. I didn't splurge, just upgraded to a comfy condo, took a solo trip to Japan, and set up solid retirement accounts. But something changed when my family found out how much money I had. Suddenly, I wasn't just reliable Madison. I became wealthy Madison. A walking ATM. It started small. Dad needed a car down payment? I helped. Mom's hours got cut? I covered the mortgage for 3 months. Laura needed a new place after a breakup? I paid her security deposit and rent. Each time they'd thank me, but it felt entitled. Then Laura met James. He came from old East Coast money, summer homes, country clubs, the whole package. Laura transformed. Suddenly, she was spending weekends in the Hamptons and posting glamorous Instagram pics. My parents were over the moon. The engagement came 8 months later. Laura called, bubbling, "Madison, I'm so excited for you to be part of this. You've always been there for me. I want you right by my side." The venue? The Griffin Estate, Seattle's most exclusive spot. Weddings there started at $50,000, way beyond what my parents could afford. "Don't worry about Mom and Dad," she said. "James' parents are helping. We've got it covered." Then she dropped a soft bomb. "If you wanted to help with some of the smaller expenses, that would be amazing." Of course I said okay. I thought she meant the rehearsal dinner or maybe her dress. I had no idea I'd end up funding the entire wedding. The demands began 2 weeks after the engagement. Over lunch, she slid a $120,000 wedding budget across the table. I nearly choked. "Laura, that's a lot." She flipped through magazines. "It's reasonable. The Griffin Estate alone is $25,000, but it's the only place that gives us our fairy tale vibe." I asked, "What are James' parents contributing?" Her smile faded. "They're not on board yet. They think we're rushing." Tears welled in her eyes. "Madison, this is my one special day. James is perfect and I want everything perfect. His friends all had amazing weddings, and I can't show up with something basic." I should have said no. I should have suggested a smaller budget or a longer engagement. Instead, I heard myself say, "I can cover the venue deposit while you figure out the rest." Her tears vanished. "You're the best sister ever. I knew I could count on you." That $25,000 deposit was just the start. The requests kept coming. Florist deposits, a designer dress, band cancellations. Every time I transferred the money, telling myself I was investing in her happiness. I tracked every penny, foolishly thinking they'd reimburse me later. By 3 months before the wedding, I'd already spent over $75,000. The bills didn't stop. My financial advisor started questioning my sanity. I'd liquidated investments, incurring tax penalties. But every time I thought about pulling back, I pictured Laura's disappointment, the accusations of ruining her big day, the family drama. So I kept paying, buried my resentment, and told myself everything would go back to normal after the wedding. But things only got worse. Despite paying for almost everything, I was increasingly sidelined. My job kept me busy, so I couldn't attend every cake tasting, but I made sure to join the important decisions remotely. Laura, though, scheduled meetings when I was stuck in unmovable meetings, "Oh, did I get the time wrong?" she'd say innocently. "We've already put down the deposit, so it doesn't really matter anyway." One Tuesday, I left work early to surprise Laura at a menu tasting. I walked in to find her already there with Mom and Patricia. James' mom, a thin, elegant woman who always seemed to look down on me. "Madison!" Laura exclaimed, looking more startled than happy. "What are you doing here?" I explained my meeting had been canceled. "Patricia gave me a cold once-over." "Laura didn't mention you'd be joining us." Laura quickly covered. "Madison's super busy with work, so she usually can't make these." During the tasting, I felt like an intruder. Patricia dominated the conversation, vetoing items as too peasant, and suggesting expensive upgrades I knew would land on my credit card. Laura deferred to her future mother-in-law on everything, and Mom just nodded along. After Patricia left, I pulled Laura aside. "What was that about?" I felt like I was crashing someone else's wedding planning. Laura sighed. "Don't be dramatic. Patricia has amazing taste. I want her to feel included. More included than the person paying for everything?" I couldn't help asking. Laura's face hardened. "Is that what this is about? The money? Are you going to hold that over my head forever?" Our mom jumped in. "Girls, please. Madison, your sister is under a lot of stress. The last thing she needs is to feel guilty about accepting your help." I apologized as always, but the pattern continued. A week later, while grabbing coffee near Laura's apartment, I overheard her talking with her maid of honor, Kimberly. "Madison's being such a control freak," Laura complained. "Just because she's paying doesn't mean she gets to make all the decisions. It's my wedding, not hers." Kimberly sympathized. "That sucks. But at least you're getting the dream wedding without going into debt." Laura sighed. "Sometimes I wish she'd just send the money and stay out of it. She's making everything so complicated with her spreadsheets and questions." I left before they saw me, feeling punched in the gut. My spreadsheets, my attempt to stay organized, were now a control tactic. The final red flag came 3 weeks before the wedding. Laura organized a bridal party spa day. I wasn't officially in the bridal party, but given everything I'd done, I assumed I'd be included. I found out about it through my cousin Rachel's Instagram story. A picture of Laura and 6 other women in robes, champagne flutes in hand. When I confronted Laura, she burst into tears. "I didn't think you'd want to come. You're always so busy and stressed about work." My voice shook with hurt. "You excluded me from a celebration for a wedding I'm paying for?" "I'm sorry," she sobbed. "You're right. You're the most important person in this whole process, and I couldn't do any of it without you." Her apology felt sincere, and for a few days things improved. Laura called daily, asked for my opinions, even scheduled a sisters-only dinner. I started to think I'd overreacted. Then came the rehearsal dinner, hosted by James' parents at their country club. Meeting his extended family opened my eyes. His college friends made subtle jabs about the tech industry. "Lucky coding monkeys," they'd say. More concerning, how Laura presented herself. She transformed into a polished, name-dropping stranger who claimed to run her own lifestyle consulting business. A huge stretch from her Instagram account. When James' uncle asked how they afforded such an extravagant wedding on a teacher's salary, Laura smoothly replied, "Madison and I have both been very successful in our careers," making it sound like we were equal contributors. Later, I overheard Patricia telling a guest, "Laura comes from a good family. Her sister made some money in that tech bubble. Nothing like our family businesses, of course, but they're comfortable." I felt sick. Laura wasn't just taking my money. She was taking credit for my success and downplaying it to fit James' world. When I tried to talk to her about it, she snapped, "I was just trying to fit in, Madison. James' family can be judgmental. I didn't want them looking down on us. Don't be so sensitive. It's not like I told them you're paying for everything. That would be humiliating for everyone." I went home with a growing dread. The wedding was less than a week away. I told myself I'd just get through the ceremony, smile for photos, and then I could set boundaries. Or so I thought. The text that changed everything arrived during a critical product meeting. My phone buzzed nonstop. Normally I'd ignore it, but the sheer volume screamed emergency. I excused myself and looked at the screen. 3 messages from Mom. "Madison, we need to talk about the wedding. There's been a change of plans. You're not invited. Laura doesn't want you there." I must have made a noise because my coworkers looked up. I mumbled family emergency and rushed to the nearest bathroom. In a stall I read the rest. Laura feels you've been too controlling about the wedding plans. She says you're making everything about yourself and your contribution. James' parents have offered to help with some expenses, but only if the wedding proceeds without drama. The final blow. Laura needs this day to be perfect. Please understand and respect her wishes. Respect her wishes? After I'd poured nearly $100,000 into her perfect day. After months of entitlement, insults, and exclusion, I was being cast aside. My mother called, sighing as if I were the difficult one. Madison, I know this is upsetting, but Laura is under tremendous pressure. James' parents are finally warming up to the marriage, and she can't risk any family tension overshadowing the ceremony. Family tension? I asked incredulously. What tension? You mean me asking questions about where my money is going? Honey, no one is denying your generosity, she said placatingly. But this isn't about the money. It's about Laura's special day. Then explain to me why I'm being uninvited to a wedding I'm funding? I demanded. There was a long pause. James' parents spoke with Laura yesterday. They're willing to contribute $50,000 toward the expenses, but they were concerned about family dysfunction. Apparently, Laura told them you've been having episodes. My blood ran cold. Episodes? What does that mean? Mom's voice dropped to a whisper. She may have implied you're struggling mentally, that your success has taken a toll, and you've been taking it out on her. In that moment, I realized my sister hadn't just excluded me or exploited me. She'd actively painted me as mentally unstable to justify kicking me out. Did you defend me? I asked, already knowing the answer. Madison, try to understand. This wedding is everything to Laura. James comes from a very traditional family. They value stability and appearances. And your disagreements were seen as a risk. Disagreements? I snapped. You mean me asking questions about my money? Mom, intent doesn't erase impact. You and Dad may not have intended to create this imbalance, but the effect was real. And when I finally tried to set boundaries, the family narrative became that I was having a mental breakdown. I took a deep breath. Mom, if I'm not welcome at the wedding, then neither is my money. Madison, don't be vindictive, she pleaded. I'm not being vindictive. I'm setting a boundary that should have existed years ago. If James' parents are contributing $50,000 with the condition that I'm not there, they can cover the other $100,000. I've already spent $2 million of my own money on this. You can't do that. Mom gasped. Everything's paid for. The wedding is in 3 days. Actually, I said calmly, most vendors have cancellation policies. I've read the contracts. I ended the call, returned to the meeting, finished my presentation, and then requested an emergency personal day. That afternoon I spread all the wedding documents across my dining table. Contracts, receipts, emails, payment schedules. I made 3 lists. Cancelable with refunds, cancelable with partial refunds, non-refundable. I started with the Griffin estate. I called Susan, the event coordinator. Madison, what can I do for you? She chirped. Susan, I need to cancel the reservation. A long pause. Cancellation? Is everything okay? No, it's not. I've been funding this wedding for my sister, but I've just been informed I'm not invited. Under the circumstances, I can no longer financially support the event. To her credit, she didn't pry. She explained the cancellation terms. I told her to process the refund. One by one, I called the caterer, photographer, florist, rental company, bartending service, every vendor. Some were brief, others sympathetic. I heard what happened, the photographer said quietly. For what it's worth, I think you're doing the right thing. No one should be treated like that by family. The DJ was even blunter. Man, that's cold. Your sister sounds like a piece of work. No offense. By evening, I'd canceled everything. Where refunds were possible, I provided my banking details. Where money was lost, I accepted it as the price of my freedom. The final step was digital. I logged into the wedding planning website I'd built, downloaded all documents from my records, and deleted the entire site. I removed shared folders, 55 meticulously created planning files that had consumed countless hours. As I finished, my phone rang. Laura. For the day, I'd sent all her calls to voicemail, But this time I answered. "How could you do this to me?" she screamed. "The venue just called. Everything's canceled. My wedding is in 3 days." "Correction," I said calmly. "The wedding you uninvited me from was in 3 days. Now it's your problem to solve." "You vindictive." "I'm not being vindictive," I interrupted. "You and our parents have taken advantage of me for years. This was the final straw. James' parents are willing to pay $50,000, but only if I'm not there, so they can cover the rest. You want a wedding? Earn it. You're ruining my life. Don't be dramatic. You're the one who lied about my mental health to keep me out. I never asked you to pay for everything. You accepted my help eagerly, then excluded, belittled, and lied about me. Now face the consequences." Laura threatened to call Dad to sue me. I laughed. "Sue me for what? Canceling services I paid for? Good luck." I ended the call. My parents left angry voicemails, but I blocked their numbers. Then I sent one final text to the family group chat. "Pay for it yourselves, leeches. I'm done being your ATM." I poured a glass of wine, booked a remote cabin on the Olympic Peninsula, and spent a week disconnecting. No cell service, no Wi-Fi, just beaches, forests, and time to think. In those 7 days, the anger softened into clarity. What hurt most wasn't the $100,000. It was the casual cruelty of being dismissed and exploited. The realization that I'd been valued more for my wallet than for who I am. On what would have been the wedding day, I hiked to a remote waterfall and performed a ritual of release. I wrote down every hurtful comment, every manipulative tactic, every moment I'd been taken for granted, then tore the pages and let the water carry them away. When I returned to Seattle, the social media fallout was immediate. Laura posted a tearful selfie with a caption about family betrayal. My mom shared a vague post asking for prayers. Friends and extended family took sides, many assuming I'd acted out of jealousy or mental instability, just as Laura had claimed. I ignored it all. The people who truly knew me reached out. My best friend Taylor brought takeout and wine. My colleague Jonathan invited me to dinner. Through them, I learned pieces of the wedding that actually happened. Laura and James got married at his parents' country club, with a scaled-back guest list and simpler decor. According to my cousin Rachel, Laura was snapping at everyone, James kept disappearing, and my parents looked miserable. Laura's absence was explained as a medical emergency. No mention of my contributions or the venue change. 2 weeks later, my mom started texting again, guilt-laden messages, then desperate voicemails. I unblocked her but kept my distance, responding only briefly. In therapy, I uncovered the family roles we'd all played. I was the capable caretaker. Laura, the needy princess. These roles served my parents' emotional needs, which is why they'd fought so hard to keep them intact. As the holidays approached, I declined Thanksgiving and Christmas with the family for the first time. Instead, I volunteered at a community dinner for new tech workers and spent Christmas with Taylor's family, where I felt warmth and respect, no strings attached. 6 months later, several extended family members reached out independently, confessing their own experiences with Laura's entitlement. My cousin Michael admitted she borrowed $5,000 from him and never repaid it. Aunt Patricia revealed Laura had lived rent-free at her place for 6 months after college. Learning that others had seen it too validated my experience. By spring, I had a new normal. Weekly therapy, a supportive friend circle, limited contact with my parents, and no communication with Laura or James. I started donating my money to causes I cared about, scholarships for girls in tech, rainforest conservation. 8 months after the disaster, my mom agreed to meet for coffee. We set a 1-hour limit and chose a neutral cafe. She looked older, more fragile. "Thank you for meeting me," she began. "I've missed you so much. I've missed aspects of our relationship," I replied carefully. "But I needed this time apart." We had the most honest conversation we'd ever had. She admitted they'd taken me for granted, that Laura's pressure to keep up appearances had led to terrible decisions. She apologized, not perfectly, but it was an acknowledgement. My dad, however, never fully understood. He insisted we just move on, but I held my ground. Moving forward required acknowledging what happened. As for Laura, 11 months later, she sent a simple card. "I owe you an apology. Can we talk? No excuses. No blame shifting." No emotional manipulation, just a straightforward acknowledgement and request. I agreed. The Laura who met me was a shadow of the bride I'd once known. No designer clothes. No polished Instagram persona. James and I are separating, she said bluntly. The divorce papers are being drafted. I'm sorry to hear that, I said, and I meant it. Don't be. It's the right decision, she admitted. Being married to James made me see myself through his family's eyes. And I didn't like what I saw, shallow, materialistic, willing to hurt people who love me to keep up appearances. That's a painful realization, I said. It is, but necessary, she replied. Madison, what I did to you was unforgivable. The wedding, the lies about your mental health, taking advantage of your generosity for years. I wouldn't blame you if you never spoke to me again. Why are we having coffee then? I asked gently. Because I need to take responsibility. No excuses. Her voice trembled. I was so focused on creating the perfect image that I destroyed the most important relationship in my life. I don't expect forgiveness or reconciliation. I just want you to know I recognize what I did. And I'm working to become someone who would never treat anyone that way again. That coffee didn't magically heal everything, but it planted a seed. We text now, small genuine moments. I sent her info about a teaching program. She sent a funny meme from our childhood. The experience taught me that walking away from toxic dynamics isn't selfish. It's often the most loving choice. I've found strength, set boundaries, and discovered a version of myself that no longer needs external validation. If you're watching this and recognize these patterns, know you're not alone. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is step back and let consequences unfold. Setting boundaries isn't selfish. It's necessary for authentic relationships to flourish. Thank you for listening to my journey from doormat to dignity.